Today, we wrap up our 300ZX twin turbo. Welcome back to the Auto Obsessive Garage. Chadwick with you again for the final installment of Project Turbo Z32, which is of course this beautiful 1990 Nissan 300ZX twin turbo you see before you. It's a great running car now, it's a great looking car now, but it wasn't always like that. Let's take a stroll down memory lane and recap this entire project. I'll show you guys how the car came in here and how it's gonna leave. Let's get in the garage and get a little reminiscent. But when I did inspect the car, you can see some stains here. Very concerning when you see this. But you can see the amount of brown, but it's, I don't know, it's not milkshakey, it's more dirty coolant or rust looking to me. So I don't know if someone put the wrong coolant in, which is always a possibility. Yeah, we gotta look at that and see what coolant we are supposed to put in. So I'm gonna flush the whole cooling system and hope that takes care of it. I don't think we're dealing with a head gasket or anything. And you can hear how horrible the power steering pump sounds. Compressor? That's on the compressor. I'm gonna go off and on and you can hear it. If your 300ZX or 300ZX twin turbo oil pressure gauge is constantly reading 0, no matter what you do, no matter how many times you tap your dash or give it the beans and get that pressure up, and you know for sure that you have oil in your system, it might be time to replace that oil pressure sending unit. You can't always anticipate the things you're gonna have to buy and replace to get a car running well again when you're doing a restoration. So you remove the air filter box cover on the 300ZX twin turbo, and what do we have here? An aftermarket cone filter. So that's gonna cause all kinds of issues. This car did not pass smog for the previous owner, so I can't figure out why. I did find a couple issues we do need to address. The steering bellow definitely needs to be replaced. It's torn here at the top and the grease is coming out, so we're gonna replace that. Also, if you come out to the tie rod end, the bushing there is also split open, so we're gonna replace that. So I'm gonna do outer, probably the inner, and definitely the bellow. And it's gonna be the same for both sides. We're at the passenger front brake, and we're about to take this rotor and pads off here, so we gotta remove the caliper. If we're gonna look around the interior, overall, again, someone has redone this. So black leather in good shape with red stitching, which is kind of cool. Are gonna go these red leather boots. Same with the steering wheel, got the red Z, but the steering wheel is completely gone. So we do have a repaint of the center cluster. I'll have to find out what color that is originally. I'm assuming it's gonna be a black color. It's pretty good. I don't like this whitish material, so I might just dye that black and go full black out in here. Get some fabric paint and paint that. Restoring the exterior of our Nissan 300ZX twin turbo is gonna be no small feat. Obviously the wheels went a long way to help, but the paint, it's good. I think I can polish, bring it back. However, really faded on the spoiler. Well, not super faded, but definitely faded versus the rest of the body. Gonna address that. A big issue here is the black, supposed to be black, shiny paint up here where you'd have the Nissan and then the twin turbo badge down there. Has completely just, I don't even know how this happens. Just same with the bumper, pretty faded. Gonna address that. But overall, the trim needs to be done now. Up here, the trim is the worst around the windshield, but we cannot simply paint that. We're gonna have to sand all that old material off, because if we paint over that, that's gonna flake off still, and there's no use in painting it. Same with the T-tops. You can see up here, we have to peel all that black material that's still on there, get it sanded down really nice. But in the front, there's a lot too. We've got some cracking down there, not too uncommon on these since they are pretty low front ends. So I'm gonna try to use a plastic welder, get that to stick together as best I can. But you can also notice up here, around the lights, there should be a gunmetal kind of lipstick section there. And someone has painted this bumper at one point in its history and gone ahead and just made it all red. And it doesn't look bad all red, but I want to make it look normal. make it look as it rolled out of the factory. So we're gonna get some gunmetal paint, tape that off, and try to do the best job we can to make that look like it should from the factory. I think it'll add a lot. And there's supposed to be a Nissan decal right there, just off center. So we'll do all that. There's a lot to do. There's a lot. Up top, we want to loosen our radiator cap at this time. And now we're getting coolant everywhere. Oh shoot. There we go. A little bit of a disaster, but that's fine. All right guys, this is gonna be the flush where we use the super cleaner to clean out all these contaminants. And here we go, a nice cup of coffee. Pretty light coffee though.
It's like caramel actually, it's like caramel, Daddy.
It's like melted caramel. Well, after running about 8 heat cycles of 15 minutes each with the cleaner in there, and I did use 2 bottles of the cooling system cleaner to really concentrate it because I'm still getting so much brown water and sediment. This is what I got. Rocking coffee. Kind of lighter, but it's about the same. Still smells like old coolant, but yeah, getting lots of sediment. Let me dump. Here's our old noisy power steering pump removed from the vehicle. As you can see, completely coated in old power steering fluid and other nasty materials from the engine bay. Now this thing was making a horrible noise. A rebuild kit can sometimes save these, but this is the original, 200,000 miles. I don't know. I'm gonna just source a low mileage or rebuilt one to slam that in. But yeah, here's a power steering pump comparison, the classic old versus new part. Here's our rebuilt unit. It's an OEM rebuilt. You can still see it's got the clean sticker there. Really good condition, cleaned up pretty nicely. It's not re-spray painted like some units are when they're remanufactured, but this is an OEM Nissan one. The pulley looks to be in fantastic condition, which is good. You want to look out for nicks. They can damage the belt, obviously. But this is our good unit, rebuilt with OEM parts, and that's what I like. Here's our replacement unit right here, a Beck Arnley, made in Japan. We're gonna go ahead and get the old one off, but we'll be putting this one right on. So I'm gonna go ahead and open this at this time. You can see our fresh oil pressure sending unit there. All right, nice and tight. We didn't lose much oil at all. Might not be a bad idea to just add a little bit. And we are done with this job. New sending unit installed. Let's go turn the key on and see if we do get some oil pressure reading. And that's that intake unit removed. We're gonna go ahead and take the intake off at this time. So this job is a little tougher than I thought it was if you've never had to take an airbox out or put an airbox back into a 300ZX. It's not a fun job. So as you can see, the unit, or the bottom part of the unit, is in there. Next step, we'll drop in our 2 new air filters. Pretty straightforward. Now let's go ahead and put the top of the airbox on. All right, time to do these outer tie rods in. There we go. And now once you see this can freely spin in here, you're good to go. But yeah, you're gonna have to get some leverage to get that jam nut off. It's pickle fork time, my favorite time of day. Usually take. And yeah, I'll let you guys be the judge, but probably about 25% pad life remaining. So they're pretty old, pretty worn down. Time to get some new fresh pads on this. Rotor's off, you can see clearly an old rotor. Lots of lines in there, a good lip on the top. She's dead to us. Okay, we're ready to bleed the brakes on our 300ZX twin turbo. Let's go ahead and hook this Nissan up with some good brake fluid. And that was it. Now you can slide it over. Boom, like so. And now we've really taken this car all the way apart. All right, with all the screws back in, let's flip it over and see how our boot looks. Oh yeah. That's gonna look pretty awesome. As you can see, it's got the red stitching to go with the rest of the black leather red stitching interior. And we'll clean up this a little bit, just a little dirty, not too bad. And this is gonna look fantastic when it's back in the car. Let's give it a little function test. Now this boot for the e-brake handle does need to move quite a bit. So just make sure you're able to put it up where it would be when your e-brake's engaged, and then down where it's resting. And then let's hit it with primer. chips and high spots have been reduced. That's all gonna get that beautiful gunmetal paint on it. So now it's time to alcohol prep, tape everything off to make sure we're good. All right, it's time to throw our paint down, our first coat of paint after this primer has fully dried. Nice light coat, obviously. That looks absolutely stunning compared to how it looks. Realistically, this is our 20th flush. Let's see how we're getting it. It looked really clear coming out. Wow. Okay, it just took us a while to get there, but that is pretty clear. A little hint of some kind of discoloration, but that is basically, you know, pure water coming through there.
No more power steering pump noise. You can hear it, it's nice and quiet now. That's awesome. So I'm gonna let the car go through a couple heat cycles, like I said, burp the cooling system, and then we're done, guys. That's it. Power steering pump replaced.
And with the car running, you can see our oil pressure gauge is now registering and working great. So if your oil pressure gauge isn't working, go ahead and replace your oil pressure sending unit. Stock airbox is all installed. MAF is hooked up, has its clip on there to keep the plug from coming off, has all the bolts holding it down, and is ready to have the cover put back on. Perfect. And we are complete on the outer tie rod and new steering rack bellow. So we're doing really good, guys. All the calipers bled. You can see our nice chunky fluid color. Pretty dark, pretty nasty, so we're good to go. Time to take the bleeder off, and we're done with the brakes. All right, let's be completely honest for a second. This interior looks completely different than it did before, just by these small changes we did. Look how awesome it's looking in here. Got the carpets all cleaned up, steering wheel looking good, center gauge cluster, radio bezel, all that stuff looking fantastic. Shift boot, e-brake boot, whole interior just looking absolutely great together.